Welcome to Empower Humans.
Welcome again to the Empower Humans podcast. This is episode 65. This is a video episode, my friends. We don't have many of those. We got an interview with the one and only incredibly talented singer, Daniel Emmet, who was on America's Got Talent season 2018. He was one of the finalists, and really exciting interview, really dynamic. He's young. He's got quite a career ahead, and I'm excited to see where this career goes. I wouldn't be surprised if we see him in the upper echelons of all the things that we consider that in the music biz, and possibly even marquee on the Las Vegas Strip, just like Donnie Marie and Britney and Celine Dion and Backstreet Boys. He's got such a range of talent, from opera to pop music to, we talked about this, the Beatles and all these other things. Hey, I got shadows going on behind me. That's exciting. And those who are just listening, you should probably tune into the video, see the shadows. A little bit of a green background. Maybe I'll put in some monsters or something, like a green screen. No, I'm just kidding. In any case, listen to this interview. I want to remind you, our audience, as always, you are absolutely priceless. Nothing can change that. All the riches and all the other things in this world, all the fleeting stuff, nothing can change your priceless status here. And the riches are found in you, my friends. I also remind you, as always, you are never alone. Don't ever forget that. If you need any help or assistance, reach out to me, empowerhumans.com. Contact page. There's email, info@empowerhumans.com, at Empower101 on Instagram and Twitter. And I want to challenge you, as always, study. Keep studying if you have been. Start studying if you haven't been. Continue to learn, grow, continue to sharpen your mind, and just pour contents of knowledge, of value into this priceless thing we have in our brains, and it'll make your days go better. It just makes you feel better, and it also help you to continue to progress, so you don't feel stagnant in life. Continue to study. Also make great moments. That usually involves those that we love, or just people in general. That means surprise. Love is, I always say this, love is a verb, an action item, not just a noun. Surprise those we love, and do things, make things into great moments, whatever it is. Sometimes things go wrong. Turn those into great moments. Take lemons, make lemonade, as they say. Make great moments, loved ones, family, children, like I always say, co-workers, roommates, whatever you got in your world, make great moments. And the last challenge is always, let's keep doing this podcast together. Daniel is, I'm so impressed with this guy. He has so much talent and explains himself so well. We got into some of his other outside interests as well, so stay tuned for that in our interview. And again, like I say, I wouldn't be surprised to see this guy on tour with some of the greats and become one of the greats. He reminds me of a Josh Groban, but massive range, and probably going to have something of a show of his own at some point here pretty soon. So stay tuned for that. Lots of things that I think are brewing from what they tell me, but things we can't quite yet publicly talk about. So stay tuned, enjoy our interview, and here we go. Daniel Emmet. We are here today with the one and only Daniel Emmet, and doing a rare video interview. Hey, here we are in Las Vegas, good old Las Vegas. We're cooling
Absolutely.
off the fall time, right?
Yes, we are. It's finally cool enough to step outside. It is a beautiful time in our city. Absolutely.
We were just talking about that. Vegas gets up to like 130 in the summer, and then we have cold winter, but it doesn't quite snow generally.
No. Well, last year it snowed a little bit.
Yeah.
At least out here by us in Summerlin, we got like a couple inches on the ground a couple of mornings.
Yeah.
Which is a lot for here. If you're not from here, that shuts down the city.
For about an hour. And then
exactly. But they will close the schools.
Right. For Daniel, for those who don't know, was on the 2018 season, America's Got Talent.
That is correct. And
super talented. The range of singing that you can't even imagine. I mean, you sing everything from opera to pop music. Yep. I've heard you sing some Beatles songs.
I have.
But let's go way back. I know you're a youngster, but let's go all the way back.
Back to the beginning.
Back to the 90s.
What a good time. What a time to be alive.
That was the time I was, that's when I started playing the drums myself.
Nice.
But what year were you born?
93.
Oh, you are a youngster. Mm-hmm. That's actually the year I started playing the drums.
Hey! It was a musical year.
Yeah, there's something about that. And so But you're from back east originally.
I am originally from upstate New York, Rochester to be specific. Great place to be from. Great place to live.
Do you have any siblings too, or?
I do. I have 5 siblings. I'm so sorry. Let's retake that. 1 second. I have so many siblings, and they're all so wonderful. I come from a very cool blended family. I'm actually an only child of my biological parents.
Oh, really?
And then I have 2 amazing older step siblings and 3 younger half siblings on either side of the family. That my parents have since remarried, and we have this incredible blended family that is huge.
Wow.
And we live all over the country. I live in Vegas. One of my younger brothers lives in Vegas. 2 of my younger siblings live in Rochester still. And I have an older brother that lives in Kansas and an older sister that lives in Nebraska. So we are all over the U.S.
Wow.
Big family.
Yeah, and that's I come from some of that too. My parents split up. I've got 2 older brothers, but so where do you fit in that mix?
I am exactly in the middle. I've actually been every kind of child. I was an only child. Then I was a youngest child. I'm currently a middle child, and I am technically the oldest child on one side of the family. Wow. So I have all the child syndromes.
Yeah, you can relate to. Yeah, you must have read the birth order book.
Yep.
But right now you're the crazy middle kid.
I am the crazy middle kid.
Stereotype.
That's me.
Good.
To a T.
I interviewed another crazy middle kid, but he was in the middle of 7. So.
Wow,
that's even crazier.
Even crazier. Yep.
The deeper down the middle. So, in this childhood and all these things going on, what was it that made you gravitate towards music?
I always enjoyed music as a kid growing up and singing around the house and, being in school choir and school plays, but I never really considered it as a career necessarily until I actually moved to Vegas with my family when I was 15. And then I guess just being in this crazy city in this incredible entertainment environment, seeing the headliners like Celine at Caesars and Donnie Marie over at Flamingo, and just kind of experiencing that great entertainment that the city has to offer really inspired me to take my music to the next level. And when I moved here and I went to Faith Lutheran in high school, I joined the high school choir that required you to take voice lessons to be in it. So I went and got a voice teacher here, and that was when I first experienced the more classical, multilingual side of music as a solo classical young artist. Yeah. And I really fell in love with that and just absolutely just fell in love with music that way. And when I was a junior in high school, I had an opportunity to sing for my first ever solo appearance outside of a school play or, choir or anything. I got to sing for the Nevada Childhood Cancer Foundation's annual gala at the Bellagio. That was the first time I'd ever stepped on stage to do a solo in front of about 800 people. And the feeling of just being on stage and experiencing that moment with that audience was just electrifying in a way that I'd never felt before. And I knew when I stepped off that stage, I wanted to do this for the rest of my life.
Yeah, you caught the bug.
I did. I caught it. Good.
Yeah, and it's contagious, but you haven't gotten rid of it, sounds like. So
no, it's still here.
I can tell. And
still well sick with that bug.
And we're all grateful, by the way. I watch you sing, and it's moving, by the way. We talk about multilingual. Now, you sing in all these various languages, from Spanish to Italian and so on. Do you speak these languages too, or do you just sing in them?
I speak enough to get by in most of them. There's a few I'm still working on. My French is real rusty, but I'm working on that one. But I can get by in a few of the languages, and of course, I know always everything that I'm singing about. I know all the translation and everything that we're singing about when we're out there, so we can deliver it correctly.
Good. So you're
not just spouting nonsense. No, absolutely not. No, that's a passion of mine, is really understanding the language where the song is either translated into or came from originally, so you can deliver it with that spin on it that makes it unique.
Yeah, that feeling of those languages. I think of Justin Bieber, the Despacito, and I saw a thing where he went and he tried to sing it in a club, but he didn't really know the words. He was just da 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 da, but like most of the gringos do, because we just know the Despacito. Right. So anyway, that happens when you're singing outside your native language, I suppose.
True.
So, how many languages do you sing in, though?
7.
7 different languages. Okay, we're talking Spanish, Italian, Latin?
Yep, actually, yes.
Of course, English. French.
Yep, German and Russian.
Oh, Russian, too.
It's one of my favorites, actually.
Wow, that's different alphabet and everything.
It is. That one's tricky. That one is a hard one to sight read for sure. But it is very, very fun, and it's really rewarding to get to sing in these different languages and experience different cultures when you do it, because you can connect to such a broad audience through that medium.
Yeah, no kidding. And I think about when I've seen you perform this range we talk about, from opera to all these other things. Is there any other performer like you out there? Because I, for one, can't think of one. I mean, there's some other. The only thing I can think of is maybe a Josh Groban, but I still think you're one of a kind.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate that. We all try to be a little bit different and unique in this crazy music world that we live in. And what's cool about the classical crossover genre that technically is what I sing is that it is a lane that's always evolving and it's always changing. There's the pioneers of it, of course, like you mentioned, Josh Groban. And the fact that you compared me to him is such an honor, because he is one of the original pioneers of the classical crossover genre with the song You Raise Me Up and different things that he recorded with David Foster. And his career has been just varied and incredible, and he's still reinventing himself all the time. His last album was fantastic. Other artists like Andrea Bocelli do similar things where it's multilingual and it's a little bit multi-genre, where you have that blend between a pop and an opera singer. What I like to do is I really like to take it a step further and include a lot of rock and roll crossover as well. And what we do, like you mentioned, the Beatles cover that we did in my show at Caesars, the Come Together version, which is a little bit of hard rock mixed with classical power.
Yeah. Oh, Come Together. You can't argue with that song either. And speaking of that kind of thing, obviously we know you got into this opera and these other kind of more classical styles in your teenage years, sounds like. Prior to that, what were you listening to, or what else do you listen to music-wise?
I listen to everything from indie to alternative, classical. Obviously, if we were to put my Spotify on shuffle right now, it would be probably chaotic and terrifying to the average listener, because it's so all over the place. 1 minute it'll be Pavarotti belting out an aria, and the next it's LP's hit that just went number one, and it went I think she just went diamond in Mexico actually with it, and the next it's Imagine Dragons, and then we're over to some musical theater, and then we're hit over to Groban, and there's probably some Bieber in there, as you mentioned earlier. Despacito's probably in there somewhere. I know it was when it came out, but
it's everybody's playlist.
That's what I love about music, is that nowadays there's so much great music in every genre, and because of the great platforms we have, like Apple Music and with Spotify and all the different ones, we have access to so much more music than we used to. We can really be exposed to so much more content, and there's great stuff everywhere to be heard. I couldn't agree more. I mean, to me, any art, music or otherwise, that comes from the heart, and that rhymes, congratulations, but any art that the word art is in heart. Yes, it is.
But truthfully, though, in all seriousness, any art that comes from the heart, as obscure and strange as some of it might be at times, it has some appeal to me, because there's just something about art in general. Whether you're singing hip hop or Despacito or Pavarotti, all these various beautiful things, and that's the beauty of this world. I mean, variety is the spice of life, as Tony Horton used to say from Beachbody.
That is correct. I 100% agree with that.
Yeah, so I'm glad to hear that. And by the way, speaking of which, is there any hip-hop, rap, any of that kind of stuff? Any Nicki Minaj?
Lizzo is a staple on my playlist. That is a given.
Okay.
Absolutely.
But you're not doing a lot of hip-hop yourself, performance-wise?
Not as often as maybe someday. Maybe someday I'll get into that. There is a brief hip-hop moment in the opening number of my show, but it's just to throw that variety and the spice of life you were just talking about in there, just to throw in some extra flavor. Yeah,
that's great, and I think people can appreciate that. There's not a lot of what's in Vegas, by the way, is really kind of, no offense Vegas, but pigeonholed a little bit. It's like you either got Britney Spears or you've got Celine, and we love all of them.
Absolutely,
but you cover a spectrum, and I think there's a market for that. Just my hunch.
I sure hope so.
Yes.
But that's something that I love being able to do, is to be able to bridge the gap between the genres and really bring something for everyone to every show that I put on, whether that's with a symphony or whether that's with a band like we had at Caesars, or whether it's just me. You got to bring something for everyone, because that's what music's all about. It is universal, and it's there for everybody.
And you do it so well. I think now, I don't want to transition too hardcore here, but I think of the roller coaster you had on America's Got Talent.
Yes.
And it was a roller coaster literally from day one.
Yep, it was.
But first, before we get into that, what made you go do, it takes a certain level of confidence to go on a stage like that and perform. What made you go do that, and what were you thinking when you went out on that stage before the roller coaster started?
What I was thinking is that, first we'll go into why I chose America's Got Talent. And that is because they are not afraid of an artist who's a little bit left of center. Like we said, it's not someone who's cut and dry top 40. It's someone who wants to be in a couple of different lanes at one time, like what we do. And I also wanted to go on the show because I felt it was the right time for me as an artist to put myself out there. I felt I was confident in my art and what I had to offer, and also that I feel that there's a little bit of a gap in the American music market right now for a classical crossover singer. We have amazing artists that are out there, but I think the lane is a little bit open for somebody new right now. And that was why I chose to go on when I did. But I really picked America's Got Talent because I felt that their platform was the perfect match for me.
Yeah.
And they were open to that as well.
Yeah.
They asked, I got the chance to go on and perform in front of America and the judges. And as we saw, nothing ever goes to plan when you perform in front of Simon Cowell.
Yeah, Simon Cowell's involved. Yeah.
He's going to throw some curveballs at you, that is for sure.
And tell us what happened with Simon in your own words and your own feelings. Because I watched this, and I watched again today just to kind of get in the zone with you. But there's a look on your face when he stops that. And what was going through your head? And well, start from the beginning. Tell me what happened in your audition.
Okay. All right. So I'm going to let you all in on a little secret. There's an unwritten rule in the world of television that when you audition for a TV talent show, don't go out with an original song. Just don't do it. Don't do it. Learn from me. Don't do it. So I went out and I sang an original song in front of Simon Cowell and millions of people on national television, which I felt very confident in, and I still am very proud of that song.
Yeah.
And right as I got to the big moment of the song, Simon just stops me right in the middle of the song. Now, I didn't know it in the moment, but it wasn't because Simon didn't like the song that I was singing, but Simon had another song in mind that he wanted to hear me sing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what is going on? So
that was the look on your face.
That was the look. It was like full deer in headlights, like, what's happening? So Simon says, Simon says, that's funny.
Yeah, another one.
Simon says, all right, I've got this song. It's in Italian, and I want to hear you sing it. Have you heard of it before?
Yeah.
I'm like, no, I have not. And he says, okay, all right, we'll go backstage, learn it, and, come back in an hour, and then sing it for me.
Yeah, yeah.
In an hour. And I don't know, it was a little bit of determination, a little bit of divine intervention, and a whole lot of Red Bull that got me through that hour.
Yeah.
And I came back, I just said to myself, look, this is your chance now. This is your chance to show what you're made of and what you can do, and just knuckle down and do it. And I stared at that piece of paper and put the song up to my ear for about an hour backstage.
Yeah.
And then I got the call, okay, you ready? It's time to go back to stage. And I'm like, actually, I think Tyra Banks actually asked me that on the way back to stage. She looked at me and she was grabbing me by the shoulder. She goes, are you ready for this? And I was like, I don't know. And she was like, well, you have to. Threw me out on the stage, and I went back out there and I sang the song, and by some miracle, all but 2 of the words came out of my mouth, and the crowd went to their feet, and it was the greatest moment of my life.
They went to their feet from about the first 5 seconds because I watched it today. And the look on Simon kind of did this. He almost twitched as you started singing. I noticed. I was like, oh wow. Well, he didn't expect that, and I'll just say you crushed it.
Well, to be fair, neither did I. I didn't expect it either. But we
no.
It was just an incredible moment, and I'm so grateful for that opportunity to have had that challenge, because I actually recently released that song that Simon made me learn, Passera, as my first single, and it actually. I'm really proud of this. It actually debuted at number 2 on the iTunes classical chart when it was first released.
Yeah, I love it. And you bring such a flavor to that kind of music, if we can use flavor with classical, that I mean, do you see this kind of music? We'll get back to America's Got Talent. Do you see this kind of music gaining in popularity? Because we have so many other, we talk about the hip hop and all these other genres. Do you see, and maybe you can be an instrument in that process?
I would love to be that instrument. I hope so. I mean, if nothing else, what we showed on AGT is the fact that if, Opera Boy right here can make it to the finals, and we'll go back into that journey later on.
Yeah.
But just, it shows that there is an appetite for that music in the American market and internationally as well, of course. I mean, there's a huge market for it in Europe, but especially in America. I really think that now with our music tastes and our playlists all being so varied and diverse, I think there's absolutely a market for the kind of music that I do, and I hope that what little bit I can do to help classical music grow in popularity is, I believe it was Johnny Katz that coined me this first, was the gateway drug to classical music. And I will take it. I will take it. That's what I'd love to be, because I love classical music. I grew up with it, and I studied it in school.
Yeah.
And it's something that I wish I could make it more accessible to, and just not so scary to some of the younger generation and some of my own generation that maybe wouldn't gravitate to opera and classical music right away on their own. But if we can do a cover of a song that they love in a classical style, kind of like what we did with Aerosmith's "Don't Want to Miss a Thing" in the quarterfinals, if we can show them that classical can be like that, maybe then they'll say, I'll get comments like, "Wow, I didn't know opera could be like that. That's really fun. That's really cool." And that's something that I would like to do and explore more of, is just kind of being that bridge between pop, quote unquote popular music and classical music. That would be the home that I would love to fit in the music business and the entertainment industry.
Yeah, and there's so much flavor in classical music. I keep using that word flavor, but there's so much. There's so many layers to it, and so much work goes into all these various instruments. And I always think about going into an orchestra and everyone's tuning to middle C, and you just hear this. That might not have been middle C. You probably know, but in any case, you just hear that as you walk in, waiting for the orchestra to perform. And
absolutely.
It's just take and repackage something that's so beautiful, and really is where modern music started.
Absolutely.
Anyway, I think there's something there, but we're just philosophizing right now. America and the rest of the world will
philosophize away.
Yeah, we could go on for hours on that.
Yes, we could.
I'm a music guy myself, but not of your caliber.
Oh, stop it.
and so I think about your America's Got Talent journey. One thing I always wonder about that show, is there a drama backstage, or people getting catty, and this is a competition, for crying out loud?
I think that's one of the best things about America's Got Talent, is because our competition is so diverse. Like, how can you be catty when we actually, that was the best part about the show, is how friendly it was backstage, and how our season just became like a little family.
That's great.
Of all the different acts. I mean, how can you, I can imagine it might get a little more cutthroat on a competition where you're all the same. Like, you're all magicians, or you're all singers, or you're all dancers. But how can you be catty when everyone is so talented in a completely different field than you? There's no way to compare yourself or worry about, trying to be negative backstage. All we can worry about, trust me, the schedules we have back there are very full, and it was amazing and a crazy and wonderful time that all you have time to worry about is being the best you can be. And what's great is that everyone there they're there for the same reason. They're there to showcase what they do in the best light, and they're not there to tear other people down.
That's great. You say that where everyone's doing something. You got a magician and a dancer and a group doing this or that. That's one of the things I love about America's Got Talent.
Me too.
And because I think back to American Idol, where Simon, became real famous to begin with. But that's all it was, is singers. I can only imagine there must have been some cattiness there, but we're only speculating.
I can't speak to that. I was never on that show. And and my show, I had a great experience with it, but I can imagine it might get a little more competitive is the wrong word, but it would be easier to, I would feel it would be easier to become more of a competitive environment than backstage at AGT, which honestly was just a really empowering and word of the day, empowering and uplifting environment backstage. While hectic and obviously high stress, but that's what was the best part, is all the contestants really banded together to help each other through it. Yeah,
that's great. That's good to hear. So for those of us who haven't gone on AGT, which is a few of us in America, more haven't than have, we'll just say. And that being said, what can you say? What's it like going from relative obscurity to literally being known widely, literally overnight?
Oh my gosh.
What is that like?
I will tell you my favorite story. So it's wild. First of all, it's wild and it's unreal. And it's crazy and wonderful to get recognized out in the world. And it is just this surreal feeling that you get. I remember the first time it ever happened to me was the day after the episode we were talking about with Simon stalking me and asked me to learn the new song. The day after it aired, I was driving to LA, and it's like 6 o'clock in the morning. I'm at the gas station, and I remember this like it was yesterday. This bright blue Mustang pulls in front of me at the pump ahead of me, and this blonde lady gets out. And she opens her gas cap, and then she sees me. And I've never been recognized before out in public in my life. So all of a sudden, this woman just does this like crazy double take and full on sprints at me. Not walks, not waves, just sprints. I'm like, am I on fire? What's going on? And
Thankfully you weren't.
Thankfully I was not on fire. But she runs up to me, and in this very thick Eastern European accent, she just goes, okay, I have to tell you. I saw you last night on the TVs, and oh my God, I love you. I be vote. I be vote for you, okay? I love you. Goodbye. And she does not stop. She does not close her gas cap. She does not put gas in her car. She just gets back in the car and drives away. And I was just like, I hope she made it home.
Yeah.
Like, I hope you're okay out there, Blue Mustang lady, wherever you are. Just know that I love you. Yeah. And thank you for voting.
Yeah.
But
There's a movie in there somewhere.
It was the most surreal experience I've ever had in my life.
Wow. That's an interesting story. And well done on the accent, by the way.
You.
You speak all these languages, you get the accents down. So any other stories or any other, like, because I saw a thing where you were reading some of the tweets that people were saying about you.
Oh my gosh. Yes.
So what do you make of all that? Because like, as a guy who hasn't been famous, so far, I can only imagine you have people. Do you think about, okay, I'm doing this performance, what's everyone going to think? And then you get this Twitter. What's all that like?
It's something that I don't have a word for it except surreal and amazing. Yeah. Because the fact that little old me can go out on a stage and sing and be able to reach people like that there's no word for it. Your heart's just full. Because if what I'm doing on stage can connect with people enough that they want to tweet about me, that means more than anything else in the world. And I do have the best fans on the planet. I will say that forever. They are
best fans.
Best fans.
We don't doubt it.
You guys are amazing, and you inspire me to continue to make music every day. I wouldn't be able to do what I do without them, and that just means everything. Yeah.
Well, it takes a great artist to get great fans, mind you. And I think too, because I've interviewed some members of the band Korn, and the drummer was telling me, you ought to sit down and listen to classical music and stuff too. It's a well-rounded thing musically. If you're a real artist musically, it's just something you ought to do too. And of course, they and other bands, everyone will say they have the best fans. But I'm glad that you have such great fans.
I'm very blessed by that.
and I think too, speaking back to this roller coaster part, you came back, you left the show, right? Essentially, I don't know.
I would say I was asked to leave. I wouldn't say I left, but
you didn't just I'm tired, Simon.
I left, but not by my choice. Right. Yes, I was cut in the second round. I did not make it through the judge cuts, but AGT told me this. They had never experienced an outcry from the fan base.
Yeah.
Like what happened when I was cut, which again means so much to me that happened.
Wow.
And AGT brought me back as a wild card because of the fan reaction. And that enabled me to come back to the show and deliver my all-time favorite performance I've ever done, which was of the Diane Warren Aerosmith song Don't Want to Miss a Thing. And we did it in Spanish. And it was just my favorite performance I've ever given. And after that, so we'll go into the little saga. So then I got into what's called the Duncan Save. And for those of you that don't know, that in the entertainment world, I think is the most stressful thing that you can possibly ever be a part of. It is. Anytime I hear that music when I watch the show again. It's like full on, throw you right back into the moment. You
Trigger.
start sweating. It's just the whole thing is mad.
Yeah.
But what happens is then America gets to vote to save one of 3 acts in the Duncan save. And in this quarterfinal round, they voted to save me and put me through to semifinals, which was the biggest moment for me on America's Got Talent. The challenge with Simon was very cool, but getting saved by America was the best moment of the show.
That I can imagine. That's a great point, because you think a whole bunch of people had to step up. It wasn't just 1 or 2 of the judges or, Tyra backstage. Just save this guy. It was a bunch of people who aren't in front of the spotlight said, I'm going to keep this guy on there. Vote, and got you there. So that's a great story. And that gives all of us some perspective, because I wouldn't have thought of it that way, but that's true. And speaking, by the way, of the judges, do you have a favorite judge?
Heidi Klum.
Well, you went straight into that.
Yes,
You've probably been asked that before.
Yes. I do love all the judges, and they all were incredibly supportive in their own way, but Heidi has a special place in my heart. She is just, from day one, she has been the kindest out of all the judges. And Tyra as well was very, very kind to me backstage and on stage as well. She's just a sweetheart of a person.
Great.
Heidi was just, I remember right before that quarterfinal episode where they brought me back for my wild card episode for the show, right before I was about to sing, we're on commercial break, and Heidi is, across the moat of the judges, shall we say, from stage.
Yeah.
And I walked out and I'm getting set to go, and from the other side of the bench, I just hear this, Daniel, I love you. You got this. And I look over and Heidi's out there waving her arms and shouting for me, and I'll never forget that moment, because she's such a wonderful human being.
Yeah, very supportive, very sweet. And I think too, when I saw your audition, there's a shot of her at the beginning, and she just perked up like, and girls do this when a guy starts, a good singer like yourself. Is like, I could tell there was at least some support, if not love, off from the get-go.
She's just an amazing person, and I was very fortunate that she was a big champion of mine on the show throughout the entire season.
You got to at least have gratitude for Simon, because he gave you a pretty memorable afternoon.
And like I said, all the judges I have a fond place in my heart for all of them.
Yeah.
But Heidi's my number one. But I would say, they're all fantastic. And Simon, of course, is one of the titans of the music industry. So just the fact that I have had interactions with him is something I'll never forget. And the fact that he gave me the opportunity to prove who I was, not only as an artist, but who I am as a person in that first episode, meant a lot to me as well. Yeah,
that's great. Thank you, Heidi. I know you're watching this, and I think we have a mutual friend, Jerry, who's band leader. And I said, Jerry, you know what? I'm going to be interviewing our good friend Daniel, and he said, ask Daniel.
Uh-oh.
He said, do you know anything about cars in general?
Oh, yeah.
And I said, well, I don't know the story behind that, so I'm just going to ask him, and we're going to see what happens.
Yeah, Jerry's had to travel with me across the country now, so he knows that my second love, music is my first love, but my second love is all things automotive. It's more of a disease, really.
Oh, okay. I didn't know if it was going to go on that end of the spectrum or the other end where you know nothing.
Oh, it's a problem. It is a problem. It's, I don't know if you've ever seen the great show that originally aired on the BBC, Top Gear. But that is an absolute favorite of mine of all time. I love anything to do, if it's got an engine and 2+ wheels, I'm there. I'm here for it. Just sign me up. I want to learn everything there is to know about it, and I want to drive it fast.
Wow, we got to get you in Jay's garage.
The dream. That would be a dream come
That's
true.
That's the next dream.
There it is. Conquered America's Got Talent. Now for Jay Leno's garage.
I'm gonna make a couple calls for you.
All right.
And since we're still in cars, tell me more. I mean, do you do sports cars? Anything cars? You say?
I would say anything. It's a love that I've had since I was since I could walk. Really, my parents said that when I was very, very young, I was able to identify which car was ours in the parking lot at 2 years old by the hubcaps. So I'm weird. If you didn't know already, I'm a weirdo. But
your parents had hubcaps in the 90s?
I guess so. Maybe I should say rims, but either I'm not sure if it was hubcaps or rims. But
I got you though.
I don't have the memory, but they do. But now it's just grown into something that I've always loved and always been fascinated by, and just the engineering behind it and the style. Everything just fascinates me about it.
There must be something about that gets you because I think, well, how does this cross-reference with being into classical music and being such a well-rounded musician? Because there's so many details that go into a car too, and it fascinates you. There's a lot of detail and layers, like we talk about with classical music and all music, really, and the emotion involved. And cars can get you emotional too. Interesting. Okay, I'm glad we covered that. Thanks,
Absolutely.
Jerry.
Thank you, Jerry. Thanks for asking that, Jerry.
Thanks for bringing that one in. It's now, as we get close to wrapping up here, is there any other project, anything else that you want to talk about, other performance? I know you've got a lot of things coming up. Anything you want to touch on?
I actually just had my first solo symphonic concert this last weekend in Irving, Texas, which was and we were talking about this earlier with orchestras. There is no feeling in the world like having a full symphony back you up on stage. Like that, wow, that is a wall of power just coming behind you. You feel like you can do anything.
Yeah.
You feel like you can sing anything on the planet, and it's just so much fun to be able to work with 50 plus musicians at one time.
Yeah.
And in front of a live audience. Wow, that was really cool.
That's beautiful.
And I'm very fortunate that I have a few more symphony dates coming up this year alongside Marie Osmond.
All right.
She is just an amazing human being, and I am so fortunate to be able to get a chance to work with her this year. We performed with the Utah Symphony earlier this summer.
Wow.
And now we're going to be performing at the Mohegan Sun Arena for 10,000 people on December 6th. So if you're in Connecticut on December 6th, come hang with us at the Mohegan.
Yeah, wow. Yeah, talented, those Osmonds.
They absolutely are.
Sadly, their show's coming to an end, I think, here, isn't it?
It's the end of an era.
Yeah.
It really is, because that's when I first moved to Vegas. Their show opened, I believe, 3 or 4 months after I moved here. So I don't know what Vegas is like without Donnie and Marie.
Yeah, I was thinking when you first said you were a teenager and you came to Vegas and you Donnie and Marie, I'm like, how were you a teenager? Because I think about my life. I was like, no, I was in my 20s, like early 30s possibly when Donnie and Marie started in Vegas. No, you were a teenager. So, well, good. That's a nice partner to have on stage,
Absolutely.
I imagine. So we're excited for that. Anything else you want to cover? Anything you want to say to the fans?
I think I'd just like to say thank you. Thank you for supporting me and for tuning in today and supporting this incredible podcast. And just thank you for being as amazing as you are.
Yeah,
Appreciate it.
Thank you to the fans, both of our good friend Daniel and of our show. And as usual, we want to leave you with this. Empower yourself. Empower the world around you. Oh, and by the way, just like our friend Heidi, we all want to stand by the sidelines and just say, we love you, Daniel. So I'm not going to do as beautifully as her, but I'm sure there's zillions of you out there that are doing that just like her. So again, empower yourself, empower the world around you. Thank you, Daniel.
Thank you so much.
Thanks so much for listening to Empower Humans. If you enjoyed the show, please rate and review this podcast. For more great content and to stay up to date, visit empowerhumans.com. We'll catch you next time.